The Minnesota Vikings are one of the top talking points in the NFL this season. NFL.com has them number one in their power rankings. ESPN has them as their number 2 team in their power rankings behind the 4-0 Kansas City Chiefs. And Roger Goodell is now talking about the Minnesota Vikings success. He went on Good Morning Football, their television show yesterday. I actually take that show and make it into a podcast form for my iHeart radio job. And he had things to say about Sam Darnold, because who doesn't want to talk about Sam Darnold right now? Colin Cowherd talked about Sam Darnold. Stephen A. Smith talked about Sam Darnold. And Roger Goodell was asked about Sam I Am. And here's what he had to say about the quarterback.
You got to give him credit to, his determination to get back in there and say, I can do this. And when you see someone try to overcome that and try to build on the failures he may have had, that's just something you take your hat off to. Mm-hmm.
Sam Darnold is one of those resurrection stories in the NFL where you go from the Carolina Panthers before you got the New York Jets, and just 2 terrible, awful situations. But with those situations comes a thought or even a belief or a convincing in Sam Darnold's mind where he's like, if I wasn't in that situation, things would have looked different for me. If I was with the 49ers or with a head coach, I can be a quarterback in this league. Because that's what it takes for players to be successful sometimes. Sometimes all it takes is for them to convince themselves that they're not as bad as they really are, that they just need to be in the right situation. And that is holding out to be true about Sam Darnold. It was true about Alex Smith. And I'm sure it's true about a lot of other quarterbacks. You get drafted by a terrible organization with a terrible head coach, with terrible offensive coordinators, with terrible players around you. And how are you supposed to lead these teams out of their terribleness when you're surrounded by awful people and awful situations that shouldn't be there in the first place? So that is the story of Sam Darnold. And he did have to have a lot of perseverance in his NFL journey, because you think about what he had to go through, the heckling he received from the New York media. Then he goes to the Panthers, finds a little bit of a success, and then things start falling off the rails again as they lose a bunch of games in a row, and then he gets benched. And then Kyle Shanahan takes a stab at him, gives him a chance. And it sounded like Kyle Shanahan loves Sam Darnold, and the 49ers love Sam Darnold, but they just had Brock Purdy that came out of nowhere. So it's cool to see Sam Darnold flourish in the NFL, because you get drafted as the top 3 guy. You're looking to be the franchise savior. Things don't work out at stop number 1. Things don't work out at stop number 2. Things work out at stop number 3, but you're still a backup quarterback. You only played 1 game. And then stop number 4, you lead all NFL quarterbacks in touchdown passes. You lead MVP favorites like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in touchdown passes. You have 11 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. You're being that quarterback that you were drafted to be 6 or 7 years ago. The story of Sam Darnold is a story that players like Bryce Young can hold on to and have belief in himself. Because you look at the situation he walked into in the NFL. Well, they got David Tepper, who most people say is an awful owner. I don't really know the Carolina Panthers organization all that well, but clearly the Panthers organization has struggled for quite a few years, and something's gone wrong there. And a lot of blame goes towards their owner. But you look at Bryce Young, and there's nobody else that he should point to in terms of resurrecting his career than a Sam Darnold. And, it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of hard work for Sam Darnold to do what he's done, because so many of guys would have just thrown in the towel. But it also goes back to the talent level that he has. If players didn't clearly have that eye-popping talent that Sam Darnold has, well, then teams wouldn't have given him chance after chance after chance. How many guys that are drafted in the top 10 that are busts in their first two locations get a third and fourth chance to be an NFL quarterback, an NFL QB1? You know, you see QB2s or QB3s on practice squads and backups all throughout the NFL that, you know, turned out to be busts. But how many of them get a chance to be QB1 again under a system like Kevin O'Connell? And Sam Darnold got to pick his place. So he looked at the Minnesota Vikings. He saw JJ and Addison and Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and Kevin O'Connell. And where else would he pick? He picked the perfect spot. So he deserves some credit, too, for choosing the right location to resurrect his career in the NFL. But it's cool to see Roger Goodell talk about Sam Darnold and the improvements, the perseverance to get to the other side through those struggles, through the crap, and to find success.